Hi, welcome to Chapter 9, the last of the chapters in the textbook. So you can tell if we're getting to the end of the chapter, the end of the book, the end of the semester is fast approaching. So this is the last chapter, and then we'll try to get a week or two in to make sure you're ready for the certification exam. So this chapter is all about troubleshooting, at least basic communication, troubleshooting techniques. So looking at different connectivity problems, we'll look at performance issues, troubleshooting security problems, and troubleshooting mobility problems. Those are probably the areas that most of the time we get issues in. So let's take a look at connectivity problems. Now, of course, the first requirement of a wireless LAN is what? I got to connect to it. But if a client can't connect, of course, it won't be able to access resources that the wireless LAN is trying to make available. Now, so that's probably why this is probably the number one area you're going to look at first. And probably for a certified wireless technician is probably one of the more fundamental skills. Now, some of the basic errors, the most common errors is one configuration errors. Did I put in the right SSID? Since it's case sensitive, did I put in the right passphrase? Those are issues. So it's looking at, is everything configured the way you want it to? The second one is interference. Am I having interference either from other APs or from external devices, microwave, for instance? Maybe you've got poor signal strength, so the design of the network itself isn't quite up to speed and it doesn't have enough power to make that connection back. Maybe there's driver issues on your PC that you're expecting to run an 802.11n and have certain functions or drivers on your card, but you updated them and it no longer works. So making sure you've got the latest and greatest in drivers that work. Supplicant issues is making sure that the handset, the phone, that is it set up correctly? And then, of course, are we all running the same features? Making sure there's no incompatibilities between what the network designer wants to run on this wireless LAN and how the phone is set up. So those are some of the key areas that, from a connectivity standpoint. When you look at performance, again, configuration still could be an issue. But just because I connected, if the client requires a certain level of performance, maybe a voice over IP, wireless handset may not have enough power, or it's got too much latency, it takes too long to communicate, could be a problem. Maybe a data application requires a higher throughput levels, but it could maybe because it's running a protocol that allows it to validate errors, that latency is not a big deal. But basically the point is different clients, different applications have different performance requirements. So you got to make sure that you understand what the wireless LAN was designed for. And a certified wireless technician should be able to verify that the performance requirements that was designed have been met. Now, in most cases, this can be done simply by using different client types and ensuring the performance level is as expected. But when problems exist, you need to understand what some of the common causes can be. And of course, some of the four of them there is one, configuration errors. So configuration errors and even low data rates are ones that even interference, are ones that they're common in a number of different areas. But co-channel interference or interference as a whole needs to be investigated. So with those, you get a spectrum analyzer, see what other wireless LANs are in the area. Is it peak period? What channels are all the AP radios on to make sure that nothing nearby is causing a problem? So it's making sure you understand what these areas are as far as what could deter the performance of it. Now, security issues, again, configuration errors. You're seeing a theme here that most of the problems we have are we type in information incorrectly. From a security standpoint, there's two things you got to consider yourself. One is the failed authentication, and improper, or is it improper security? Failed authentication occurs for several reasons. Improper security simply means that security in place is not in compliance with whatever policy the company has. So what you want to make sure you're thinking about is look at configuration errors, making sure the path phrase is correct, and then double check that the EAP method is being used both on your phone and your AP are the same. If there's a mismatch in there, nothing's going to work. So those are some of the key areas there. Then if you look at mobility problems, again, here mobility problems indicate there's a roaming issue that's either failing or taking too long. And when you're doing that, what are you checking for? I'm checking configuration errors. Here's this thing. People put the data in, we make mistakes, causes problems. Is there all the network settings correct? Are we supporting fast roaming? Or you haven't implemented roaming features at all. So making sure that you're looking at what is set up on the AP and what's on the phone to make sure that it knows what settings you're trying to get to as far as mobility is concerned. Now, whoops, little typo there. I'm not going to give you a troubleshooting spectrum analyzer, but I wish this was a seated class and we could do this, but actually, if you wanted to take a look at some of the tools we used earlier and just see what's on the spectrum, take a spectrum analyzer and walk, or a protocol analyzer, even if you wanted to use Wireshark, and just see what's out there. All becomes an interesting tool. Not that you'll need it for the exam, but so kind of in summary here, let's look at configuration errors cause connectivity problems. And some of those on connectivity could be disabled data rates, unavailable bands from the AP, maybe disabled bands on the client, improper SSID configuration. Interference causes can be microwaves, video cameras, wireless HDMI, several other specialty devices. Now, Spectrum Analyzer is the most useful tool in locating the interferers, the Wi-Fi interferers. Poor signal strength could be installing. You may just need to install another AP or change the output power settings of the existing AP. Knowing that when an operating system doesn't update and connection problems happen, double check the drivers. Make sure that the drivers haven't changed. If for some reason you're still running TKIP/RC4, you're going to find out that you're going to slow down way too far, even though you've got the latest and greatest access point, but everything's running too slow. Make sure you're running the right protocols. If you're trying to run too many SSIDs at the same time, it can have a degradation. Even though it makes sense to segregate your customers and your clients, but remember that beacon, I'm sending out messages multiple times a second, and if all of a sudden I put multiple SSIDs that I'm having to do that, I may not have enough time to, I'm spending all my time sending out beacons and not enough time processing calls and data transfer. Co-channel interference will degrade performance. And we can manage that through making sure the channel selections are optimal and proper client configuration. If you fail a WPA2 personal authentication, you can see that through a protocol analyzer and double check how that four-way handshake is taking place. More than likely, usually it is a configuration error. And then mobility problems usually are related to improper implementation of fast secure roaming, FSR, and trying to implement it incorrectly or incompatible with, your client's incompatible with running on the AP. So at a high level, the biggest thing we're doing is we're checking configuration. We're checking configuration, making sure that what was designed and the passwords and the IP and the SSIDs, all of that stuff are configured as the designer wanted. So hopefully it gives you a rough idea, a little bit of things to think about as far as troubleshooting your next wireless LAN. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.